evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 176, The Poseidon Adventure, the classic 1972 film starring an all-star cast led by Gene Hackman, Ernest Borgnine, Red Buttons, Shelley Winters, and the list goes on, and also Jack Albertson. I think I pretty much hit all the Academy Award winners in that. With me tonight to discuss this classic film is my friend, my co-host, the one and only, Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Thank you, Roy. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone. Welcome.
Yeah.
And we thought this would be a great way to bring to close out 2022.
Yeah. Especially great since because of the holidays, I had no time to prepare. So we're going to be wasting your time for the next 2 hours.
You're just going to wing it, Ross?
Yeah.
That sounds
It's going to be different than any other week, right?
Yeah, I think some people were worried about us singing the morning after.
I'm going to rely mostly on my knowledge of cinema history, I think, tonight.
Yeah.
So very few notes.
This is a classic. I mean, this film is actually celebrating its 50th anniversary, so it's pretty intense. So which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to welcome our viewers that are out there. Dennis Chevalier is joining us from Canada. Welcome, Dennis. Good to see you out there. And we also have Jeff Rubel joining us out west. Welcome, Jeff. Christian is joining us from Canada as well. Christian, welcome. Martin is joining us from upstate New York. He's saying, I've got a sinking feeling about this film. We've been hearing that a lot this week.
I see what he did there. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. I think it's reminiscent of The Hague. The Hague had a comment like that. Lou's joining us. Welcome, Lou. Lou's joining us from Rhode Island. Good to see you out there. And Christian is saying hi again. Hey, Bill is out there. Bill, welcome. Good to see you out there.
Hello.
And Roger is also joining us. He's saying bonjour. Roger, where are you joining us from? Please let us know. Great to see you out there. Gary Boyer is also in the house. Welcome, Gary. Great to see you there as well. I see Pat Downing is joining us.
It's Mark.
And it's Mark. Mark. How are you, Mark? Good to see you out there. And also Brennan is joining us. Welcome.
Brennan. Hope you're feeling better.
Yes.
Oh, wait. He's also got the Bumble. We both had the Bumble for our profile pic. Brennan.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so Roger's from Canada.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Good to see you then. Thanks, Roger. Mark, I didn't realize that was you at first. So thanks for joining us, Mark. This is Mark's first time to the show. So welcome, Mark. Great to see you out there. And I also see Brian McDermott is joining us. He's joining us from Akunji, Pennsylvania. Welcome, Brian.
Google it. Yeah.
And Christian is saying Quebec City.
Quebec.
And Gary's saying, I invited my friend Brian, who is a huge fan of the film. Awesome. Thank you so much, Gary. Hopefully we don't disappoint. And thanks for joining us for the first time too, Brian. It's great to have you out there. And let me see. Roger is from Montreal. Well, awesome. Very nice. Brennan is also joining us. He says, I am.
Yes, they stole it. It's okay.
It's all good. And it looks like The Hague is in the house too. Hey, John, welcome. Good to see you out there as well too. So yeah. So great film, wonderful film. In fact, of course, it is New Year's Eve. In
the movie, not now. Don't panic.
Well, no, it's New Year's Eve now.
There's no lost time yet. Yeah. Tomorrow.
So we felt that this was a great way to bring in the new year by celebrating this film and closing out 2022. So yeah, why not, right?
Why not?
So
do you remember?
What's that, Ross?
Do you remember when this opened? Did you remember any kind of cultural disturbance made by this film? Do you remember just how impactful it was when this came out?
I don't.
You don't, yeah.
I don't.
Well, you know what it was? We always went to at this point in my life, we always went to the shore, and we went to Wildwood, New Jersey, and they had the boardwalk. Mm-hmm. And every year when you went to the boardwalk in Wildwood, they would always tap into whatever the the zeitgeist was, the pop cultural, you know, uh, heartbeat of the moment. And I remember distinctly when after the Poseidon Adventure was out, that everybody's cashing in on the Poseidon Adventure on the boardwalk. They always put together these makeshift rides or haunted house kind of things. So they had a ride based on the Poseidon Adventure, and they hammered all the chairs and tables so they would hang from the ceiling, and installed the toilets upside down, and did everything that they did in the movie. And you walk through, and they had like groaning sounds on the speakers. Like, oh, we're in an upside down ship. But
So you really got the full effect then when you went down to the shore. Then you were
oh yeah,
actually
we got
there.
the full effect. It was just like being out on the SS Poseidon.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
But they did it with Logan's Run. I remember, every year they would do something down there.
Yeah.
But this film opened in December of '72 and
Right.
was an immediate smash. But it hung on. It became the highest grossing film in 1973. And
That's pretty impressive, actually.
it's pretty impressive, because you watch the movie and it's, I mean, it's a thrill ride for the era. But I mean, they're all middle-aged actors. It's not like now, you would never get a film with the, a bunch of guys in their 50s.
What are you saying, Ross?
Red Buttons. I looked around. Red Buttons was like 52 when he was in this movie.
I know, and Shelley Winters was 51.
Yeah, it's like, how can that be? And these are all people that should have been on Love Boat. I think Love Boat took all the disaster movie. When the disaster movies petered out, they just did Love Boat, and they put all these guys on Love Boat.
Well, honestly, a lot of these actors were on Love Boat.
Yeah. They went from the Poseidon Adventure to the true disaster that is Love Boat. Yeah.
I love the Love Boat. Saturday nights, 9 p.m. ABC. Here's the plug.
There you go.
Christian is commenting. He's saying, until a few years ago, Poseidon was always playing on a New Year's Eve here on retro channels. Every time I started watching, I had to watch it all over again. Well, interesting that you're bringing that up, because I guess ABC purchased this film. I think it was in 1974, and I think they paid about $1 million for the rights, and they knocked it out of the park. Now, that's where I first saw this film. It was I think it was like on a Sunday night, as you remember. They used to show the it wasn't the movie of the week, but they would always show the
Sunday night movie.
Sunday night movie, yeah.
Right.
And
yeah. So you managed to catch a Sunday when it wasn't James Bond or Clint Eastwood.
Well, I was just going to say, that was the other thing that they were always showing, the James Bond films. That's where I saw my first Bond movies.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They showed them incessantly. They worked their way through all of them. Yeah. Yeah. I remember, I guess I was at, the State Theater in Easton, anybody locally knows it. And I guess the first thing that I had seen with the Poseidon Adventure was the trailer, which of course, the great shot where the guy falls down through the skylight or the chandelier or what have you in the ballroom. I remember that. But it occurs to me, I must have been about, 6, when I saw that trailer. So we were probably, yeah.
I was going to say, interesting that you bring that up. Now, Shari is not going to be able to join us tonight because she's actually out with our niece and nephew, Tommy and Christina, for dinner.
Okay.
However, she wanted me to convey that the first time she saw this film was when it came out, and it was at the State Theater in Sense-Around, which would have been in 1972. She was there, and she said she distinctively remembers it. Now, she would have been, she was just a couple of years older than us, but she had, remembers it very, very clearly. So I wanted to share that. And also, today is our first date anniversary. So it was our first date was 16 years ago tonight. So happy anniversary, hon. Even though I'm doing the show and you're out with the niece and the nephew.
I won't say it's another disaster, but
nice.
I'm not saying it. So
anyway.
Wow.
But anyway, that's to add upon your statement, though, that you saw it at the
State.
Yeah.
So my mom must have taken us to see like a Dean Jones movie or Sun Classic Pictures film or something. The Sun Classic Films presents whatever Bigfoot or Bermuda Triangle film they had out, and they showed the trailer for the Poseidon Adventure, and I remember being freaked out by it as a kid. But this is. A lot of scary stuff going on in this movie.
Oh yeah,
you got those,
Oh, Jeff Rubel's commenting. I just remember when I was a kid and I saw the upside down toilets, we all started calling Pierre.
Yeah.
Brennan said, well, there was Top Gun Maverick.
Mm.
And Martin said Shelley Winters put 35 pounds on to do this role. Yes, she
Yeah.
did. In fact, and what happened was she blamed this movie about that because she had indicated that she had a hard time trying to take the weight off after and really never got to that point where she was able to.
Yeah. Once you
Roger,
hit once you hit your 50s. Yeah, but
yeah,
good.
it's all harder. It is. It's so
Yeah.
true. Roger saying great disaster film, and Brian is commenting as well, saying ABC Sunday Night Movie is where I saw it for the very first time as well. And Jeff Rubel saying seriously, never heard that before. Not sure which comment though.
Yeah. Well,
And to answer Mark's comments, yes, this was an Irwin Allen produced film, and I believe this was the
right.
first one that he did, right, Ross?
It was
Or
the first of the disaster movies that he
yeah,
did,
right.
because
Yeah.
he did, a number of movies in the 60s
Mm-hmm.
and 50s.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the one. Well, Airport was out before this. That wasn't Irwin Allen, but it was. You remember Airport, 1970, with
Yep. That was the
with
first one of the
right,
Airport.
right, with Burt Lancaster and Dean Martin, and an all-star cast. Helen Hayes and Van Heflin as the Mad Bomber, and and it just so happened it was a soapy kind of film. They brought together an all-star cast, and everybody had their problems, and there was stories and subplots going on. But then they put him in peril with the guy who wants to blow the plane up, Van Heflin, and that was such an effective formula that they that it kind of primed everybody. And Irwin Allen sensed this, and he jumped on and he did the Poseidon Adventure. The Poseidon Adventure is the best of them, I think,
agree.
of the ones that I've seen, because it's so streamlined. You know what I mean? With a lot of the others, you're jumping around between the plots, and they're too discursive. This one, you're right there with your core cast, and you're going through the peril and the solutions, like how are we going to get out of this? And it's a survival movie.
And it doesn't miss a beat. It just keeps going and going. It never gets boring, which is has a lot to be said about it.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to share the screen with our viewers. And in regards to the cast, I mean, you've got Gene Hackman, you have Stella Stevens, you have Ernest Borgnine. Whoops, sharing the screen, but I'm not sharing it. There we go. Gene Hackman, Stella Stevens, Ernest Borgnine, Arthur O'Connell, Carol Lindley, Red Buttons, Jack Albertson, Shelley Winters, and then also Roddy McDowell. Wow.
Yeah.
What a cast.
Yeah. And Arthur O'Connell, we had done with Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe. He was the villain, the sympathetic villain. He's kind of like the idealist who turned out to be the villain, who turned out to be the idealist again in that. And he plays the priest in this one. Not Gene Hackman, but Father Chaplain John, I guess he was.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, his part, Chaplain John, his role was not, was significant, but it was not lengthy.
Right. Which, for those who haven't seen the movie, kind of tells you the fate of his character, I guess. Kind of spoils the fate of his character.
Yes.
But you know what? I have to say, though, go ahead.
I was going to say, spoiler alert, 50-year-old movie, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Well, it's still a new movie if you haven't seen it.
This is true.
But I have to say, without really giving anything away, that it is kind of a shock if you don't know the movie. Just who survives and who doesn't, kind of thing. It's so anybody can go, kind of thing. It's not one of those things where okay, these are the leads and nothing's going to happen to them. Kind of takes that Psycho approach, the Alfred Hitchcock, where unexpectedly the lead kind of is done away with in the first half hour of the movie. But yeah. So you don't know who's going to make it through to the bottom of the ship, as it were. Yeah, by the end.
Yeah, literally.
Hey,
I want to welcome Liz. Liz is out there. Liz, welcome. Good to see you out there. And Liz just celebrated a birthday. So just
Oh,
want to
happy
say hi to
birthday, Liz.
Liz. So happy birthday, Liz. Wanted to say that to you on the show. It was
Everybody drink.
cheers to Liz.
Cheers to Liz. Another excuse to drink.
Happy birthday, Liz.
Happy birthday.
Lou is commenting, I saw the movie in the theater for the first viewing, then the drive-in several times after. Irwin, of course, began the whole disaster film genre with this.
Yeah. I'd have to say that that's true, even though Airport is considered a disaster movie. I think that this is really the first disaster movie because, as I said, it was kind of, there's an old movie called Grand Hotel that they always refer to when talking about these things. And Grand Hotel was one of these films where it brought together all these really big actors from the era, like John Barrymore and his brother Lionel Barrymore, Greta Garbo, Wallace Beery. I mean, they were just all big names at the time, and they put them together into this like kind of soapy kind of screenplay where the stories kind of crisscross and it's kind of like that. They do this with these disaster movies, but only they kill them off. Well, they did that in Grand Hotel too, but it was different. It wasn't a disaster. It was just interpersonal stuff. So they kind of
that movie in a long time.
With Grand Hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, you did see it. Okay, yeah. So they kind of resurrected that formula with Airport, and but I think that Irwin Allen is really the guy who focused in on the disaster. The first guy to do it anyway. There were other disaster movies before Airport. I mean, there was a movie called The Last Voyage with Robert Stack and George Sanders and a bunch of other people about a sinking ship, which in my opinion was better than Titanic.
I never saw that. I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Black and white. I can't remember if it's early 60s or if it's late 50s, but it's a good movie. And then there were a couple of film versions of the dealing with the Titanic, and there were, oh boy.
Well, the Titanic just celebrated its 25th anniversary, believe it or not.
Yeah, the newer one. Yeah, right, which is hard to believe. Yeah.
I've never seen that film. I'm probably one of the few people on the planet that have not seen that. In fact, Allie and Gwen from work are huge Titanic fans, and they were like, Roy, what's going on? You got to see it. And I joke and say that movie's like on my anti-bucket list because I've never seen it.
Oh, there you go.
And then they just laugh about that. Something you could bring up, Mark, at work on Tuesday.
There was a High and the Mighty with John Wayne, which was an air disaster movie, kind of a precursor. Yeah. So what are you going to say?
Christian commented about Burt Lancaster in regards to Airport. He said Burt Lancaster hated even when he was the greatest in it.
Yeah, because he was the one. He was one of the guys that they had asked to be in this one, and he turned it down. He was supposed to do the Hackman role, or they wanted him to do the Hackman role.
Yeah, he didn't think he was going to be right for the role, though, from what he said.
Yeah, you know what that means. It's code for I don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it. Mark is saying, I believe all the special effects were done on a soundstage. No, there was no CGI. In fact, that was something Shari said. She brought it up. She said how realistic it looked and everything, and how she just really appreciated it. But yeah, there was no CGI with this movie at all. It was all
especially back in the day. Yeah. Seeing this film the first time, I was like, whoa. Even though no matter what the era, they never really seem to get water right.
Right.
You can tell when things are miniature, or even in CG. I don't think they get water right.
Well, there's something to that. In fact, when we've discussed this too before on the show, and because it has to do with the depth and this perception, and it really, you're right. It's a very difficult effect to come
with models.
Yeah, it really is. It always has been.
But the way they do it in this movie, how they show it through the binoculars and then the editing, and it's just really effectively done the way that they did it in this film.
Yeah,
and better than a lot of other even subsequent movies. And this film, I can tell when I'm watching CG. Yeah, well, go ahead.
The film was nominated for the special effects too.
It won a special. This is back in the era when things won special awards, for their technical achievement or the achievement in special effects. Special effects didn't have its own category until until I forget it was later than you think. It was like the 80s, I think, when they started. When it became apparent that every year something was worthy of an award, you start getting multiple. But back then it was like ooh, this movie had special effects.
You know who
That
did
are
the
worthy.
special effects for this movie?
Who did them?
Yeah, it was LB Abbott and his team, and he actually LB
Yeah,
Abbott did the special effects for all of Irwin Allen. He did it for Lost in Space. He did it for
yeah.
Voyage to Bottom of the Sea, for the Time Tunnel, for
Mhm.
Land of the Giants. So I thought that was pretty cool because the space Lost in Space fans out there. I mean, I know Lou's out there, with the Jupiter 2 and everything. I mean, it's very cool. I mean, some of those effects still hold up, some of them not so well, but it's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Sue is joining us. Sue, welcome. Good to see you out there. She's saying, hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Been a busy day. No worries, Sue. Nice to see you out there. Sue's joining us from Massachusetts. And she's saying the original Poseidon Adventure was fantastic. Gene Hackman is amazing in this. Incredibly talented cast. Yeah, we are on board with you on that, Sue. We were just talking about that earlier, too, as well. Just how wonderful it was. And Lou's saying there was also the movie Airplane, not Airport, was based on, which I can't remember the title of.
I wonder if it was The High and the Mighty.
Mm.
I'm not sure though. I'm not sure. But yeah, Gene Hackman was red hot going into this. He had just won the Academy Award for French Connection.
Yeah, and
So what's
speaking of,
his next film? So
yeah.
it's time to catch the paycheck. Suddenly his rates go right through the roof, and he says, "I'm going to do the Poseidon Adventure."
And speaking of which, I mean, here's another photo of with the cast, and this was a really good photo. And this now the
Yeah, I'd
filming
never
of
seen
this,
that. Yeah.
yeah, the filming of this film was the film dates was March 27th of 1972 to July 11th of 1972, and they actually did it for 70 days. And while this was being filmed, of course, the Academy Awards were going on, which was April 10th of 1972. And this was the Academy Awards for 1971. And as Ross was just saying, he won the Academy Award for the French Connection as Popeye
Popeye Doyle.
Doyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you haven't seen that movie, definitely check it out. I mean, his performance in that is incredible. It's excellent. Roy Scheider's in that film as well. And
Right. And
yeah,
William Friedkin directed. That's the one that has the legendary, street car, the legendary race through the streets, chasing the above ground train, through New York.
yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, which supposedly was filmed without a permit and totally guerrilla filming. That William Friedkin didn't tell anybody that they were shooting that scene. They just shot it.
More realistic, right, Ross?
It was the 70s.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yes, and Sue, you're absolutely right. Bruce, who frequents the show, made the comment that water is the absolute hardest to create as a special effect. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Thanks
yeah.
for sharing that. And it would have been great to have Bruce on tonight just to comment about that. Brendan said, I think I read somewhere that they're planning to re-release the third version of Titanic in theaters. I highly recommend checking that out. Cameron did a good job with this 3D considering.
Hmm.
And also Lou is saying LB Abbott rules. Yes. Hey, Jeff Curley is joining us from Texas. Welcome, Jeff. Great to see you out there. Hope you're doing well and hope your holiday's been going well as well. And Brian commented.
0 Hour. Okay, maybe that was the film that Airplane was parodying. Yeah, I've never seen 0 Hour, so probably another disaster flick.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And Eva's joining us. Welcome, Eva. Hope you're having a good week. Happy
Happy
holidays.
Friday.
Yeah, and happy Friday. Thanks for making it. Lou is commenting 0 Hour Airplane was based on it almost word for word, except 0 Hour wasn't a comedy.
Yeah, that's one I have not seen, so I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
Add it to the list, Ross.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. We're always talking about how time, the passage of time differs when you're an adult from when you're a kid, and airplanes seem forever after the disaster movie craze was already, in a breathe. Yeah, they were still making them, but it was like beyond its expiration date at the time that Airplane came out. But it was only 10 years after Airport, 8 years after the Poseidon Adventure.
Isn't that
So
crazy when you think about
that
it?
is crazy. So yeah, I mean, the object of its, I mean, it was closer to Airport than Young Frankenstein was to the Universal monster movies, certainly.
Hey, Paul Miller's out
Yeah,
there. Paul, welcome.
hey, Paul. And that's the big line, one of the big lines from French Connection. I knew a guy picked his toes in Poughkeepsie. You pick your
Uh,
toes in Poughkeepsie. Yeah.
even
Hmm.
commented on the airplane movies, all of them. Yep, 72. There actually was
Right,
an
right.
Airport 79 too. I think that was the one with the Concorde, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
there was one where they're in the Bermuda Triangle, and yeah, it was. They kept ramping it up as George Kennedy would move up the ranks. He started out, I think he was a mechanic or something, or a
Then he's
luggage,
a pilot.
and then he's a pilot, and then they kept promoting him through every movie.
Well, he was representative of those movies. He was like a staple. That was the
Yeah,
only he
yeah,
was the only constant with them.
right, right. He'll do it, sure.
Hey Randy, Randy's joining us also. He's saying surely you can't be serious.
Surely, can. Yeah,
Surely you jest. I never jest, and don't call
for
me.
George Kennedy. Yeah, George Kennedy was either the airport movie or an infomercial. He says, "I guess I'll do airport for now."
Mark is commenting saying, "I think Airplane parodied everything from Airport to Saturday Night Fever."
Right,
Yes, that's right. That scene in Saturday Night Fever
right.
when he's
I can't believe that was 1980. I thought it was a few years later than that. When I looked it up, wow,
it's 80.
I can remember specifically the day I went to see that movie. It's,
I can too. And you know what? I saw the first Airplane movie at the Eric One.
right,
Saw it with my mom. It was the
right.
smaller of the two theaters. There was 6 people in the theater, including us, and I laughed so hard. And I
Yeah,
would have been 14 years old. But
I
yeah,
saw it. I saw it on a Monday night. I remember because sometimes my stepfather would just spontaneously say on a Monday, "Hey, you want to go to the movies? The airplane showing," and I read it's supposed to be pretty funny. So yeah, I'll go. Why not? And there you go.
there you go.
1980. So we were what, 14? You say?
Yeah, we were 14. Well,
Okay.
depending upon what port of the year, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'll bet it was the latter part, which I think it probably was.
Yeah.
I love this photo of them. I love the camaraderie, right?
Hmm.
Cheers.
Yeah, I'd never seen that photo before. So this is at the this is when Gene won. Like after that, they all showed up with their Oscars.
Yeah, that's just a nice moment captured. And
So he was cast before he won. Hackman was
no, actually, yes, he was cast before he won
for the
French
Poseidon
Connection.
Adventure. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yes, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Since he gets top billing, he must have been. Well, he was the only one of the cast that had a future. Face it, like everybody else was kind of past their. I hate to say it, but everybody had kind of had their heyday by that point. I mean, they still worked. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. I mean, Shelley Winters still had a career ahead of her and everything, but all of her big work, her big movies and everything had already passed. She got nominated for this though.
Yeah.
Well, again, her
In
fourth
fact, it's
nomination.
interesting too because Stella Stevens had commented after reading the script that she felt anyone that was going to be playing that part of Belle
Mhm.
would receive an Oscar, and I mean, she was right.
Yeah. I guess that was a kind of a generalization because you had people like, I mean, Pamela Sue Martin was no Shelley Winters, but she went on to do the
Nancy Drew
Nancy
and
Drew, right? So she became, more better known to people because of the she was in everybody's living room
right,
essentially, and Jack Albertson was still doing stuff. He was in Chico and the Man then.
She the Man, yeah,
Yeah,
with Freddie Prince,
Freddie Prince. So
yeah,
that and Red Buttons was still where they were all still working,
hmm
but
yeah,
they
they
were
were
all won
working.
their Oscars already. What's that?
They were all working actors,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. Carol
yeah.
Lindley, who was what was her name, Nani, I think,
Right, right.
and she was essentially paired up with Red Buttons. Which,
Mm.
interesting enough, they didn't get along very well. They both extremely disliked each other extremely during the filming of the movie, but then later became friends in life. But interesting, and I guess Shelley Winters didn't get along with some people too. So,
Yeah.
but they kind of settled their
Well, that
disputes.
were yeah. Too bad they didn't have them cast in roles where they were they were the ones that were bickering with one another. The ones that got along were actually not liking one another, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that because in the movie, watching the movie, I thought Red Buttons was older than he was in real life, and I thought Carol Lindley was younger than she
Right.
was in real life. But she was about 30, and he was about 52, so it's still a big age difference.
Yeah.
Between the two of them. But and how about that band in the ballroom?
Oh,
She's singing. She's just singing with Spinal Tap. It's like, oh, they got Nige. Nige didn't make it. Yeah.
Jeff Rubel's comment. He's saying Gene Hackman is still alive, isn't he? I think he's the last survivor of the survivors, maybe Carol Lindley.
He's
Yes,
still
Gene
alive.
Hackman is going to be 90. He was born in 1930, so he's 92. He'll be 93 in February. Sadly, Carol Lindley passed away just a couple of years ago. So, in regards to that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's living in Santa Fe.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
I think he just clocked somebody a few years ago too. For
Oh, really?
yeah, I forget why. Hackman still got it.
Mark commented yes about the morning after song got an Oscar. It did, and Russ will be talking about this a little bit later in regards to
I'll
the
be
music.
talking about the morning after.
Yeah. Liz, whatchamacallit, Sue was saying, Liz, you really should see the Titanic. Similar to Apollo 13, knowing the real life outcome does not in any way diminish the movie. It's the journey, the telling of the story that is the heart of the film. Well said.
Yeah. People bought into the story. I thought it was a great technical achievement. I didn't really buy into the story, but I was in the minority, obviously, because people kept going to see it over and over again.
Right.
For the love story. But, for me, I'd say, have a late dinner, like come in like an hour and a half into the movie and you're set. Watch the last 90 minutes, Roy.
No, I really enjoy watching this film. I think it really, really works well.
What's what? Titanic?
No, this film. Oh, you're talking about Titanic.
Titanic. Oh, you gotta see the thing sink. That's the only reason to go. You're like,
it's gonna happen.
The sink.
Eva commented that she loves Carol Lindley. I'm curious out there, folks. Does anybody remember the science fiction television series, The Immortal, with Christopher George?
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Came out in 1970. You never saw that, Ross?
I don't think I saw it. No.
Yeah, she played his girlfriend in that film. Eva said, speaking of red buttons, one of his best movies was They Shoot Horses, Don't They?
Jane Fonda, was she in that? And he won the Oscar for Sayonara. He played best supporting actor. He was honored as best supporting actor for Sayonara. I remember he was in Hatari with John Wayne. He was in a lot of stuff. Yeah, I always consider him a comedian. He was that's how he started out. But it seems like he did a lot of dramatic work too. He was one of the last survivors of burlesque, like the original classic burlesque. It's still going on. There are revivals all the time, but he was there, I think, when they raided Minsky's in New York. Yeah, I mean that's how far back he went with the burlesque, and he had an act with who's Alan Alda's dad? Didn't we treat him with Alda? Wasn't it?
What's his dad's name? Oh my goodness!
I think in a movie that we had talked about.
He might have been. I can't.
Yeah, he was the straight man. It was like the Martin and Lewis thing. So Alan Alda's dad and Red Buttons were kind of a team at the time.
Robert Alda. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I thought it was Robert. Yeah. I can't figure out why we would have been talking about him. He must have been in a movie that we had done at some point.
Even Christian said about Michael Sarrazin. They were commenting, I guess, about maybe Apollo 13. And Paul said great movie. And Susanna New York, Christian said too.
So they're talking about something totally different. Could be anything.
Please,
Susanna New York. It could be the Devil Dog Hound of Hell.
Superman.
Yeah, but I hope it's Devil Dog.
Well, and speaking of Superman, everybody thinks of Gene Hackman with Superman, because that would be a role that he would do 6 years late. Well, actually,
Yeah, it was kind
4
of
years
funny
later.
hearing him spout some of his lines because I was totally thinking Lex Luthor. He's talking about the indifferent universe. Miss Tessmacher,
I
Otis.
really, I
Yeah.
really love his character in this though, because it's like you were saying, he's considered like a rebel, a rebel
Rebel
minister,
Prince. Yeah,
but
you got to
or
help yourself. The Lord
yeah,
helps those who help themselves, kind of guy. Yeah.
Brennan said, "Oh, they're talking about they shoot horses." Lots of laughs.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we got lost there. All roads lead to Planet of the Apes. And Brian is saying angry, rebellious, critical, or renegade. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
It's
but
like Carl Malden in On the Waterfront. What's that? What are you going to say to me?
no, but he's very centered though. It's not like he's all over the place with this. I mean, he's very focused. It was a really great character that he was
Mm.
portraying in this. Yeah, you've Gene Hackman, also Bonnie and Clyde too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I was thinking about that because Gene Wilder was considered for the Red Buttons role in this
yeah.
film. And it would have reunited the two of them from Bonnie and Clyde.
Leslie, we have not seen you in a long time. Welcome, Leslie. Great to,
Leslie,
yeah,
what are you
great
doing
to have
here?
you out there.
How'd you find your way in here?
Great to see you out there, Leslie. Thanks for joining us. Leslie was commenting about this movie online on the show's page, saying how much she loved it, and she said that
Mm.
she used to watch this as a tradition every New Year's.
Oh, that's right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, which is very cool. So, yeah,
We had kicked around the idea of doing it last year. I kind of vetoed it. I didn't want to watch it during the holidays so much. But this year, there's too much holiday going on for me. I'm happy to do it.
are you saying this is an anti-holiday film,
It's a
Ross?
good anti-holiday thing. I mean, hey, if people want to do Die Hard for Christmas, I'm willing to do Poseidon Adventure for New Year's,
But
which is
Die
a
Hard is a
disaster
Christmas
anyway.
movie.
What's that?
I said Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
I have had worse New Year's than Poseidon Adventure. I'll tell you that. I'm
Leslie,
thinking, I'm watching this thing. I'm thinking, oh yeah, for the fifth week in a row, we're doing a musical.
oh please no. Leslie saying I'm letting the other ones have fun-filled ferret playtime.
No. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, because the director on this, Ronald Neame, by the way, did Scrooge, which we just did last week, which of course
Right.
is a musical, which is probably like the third musical we did in the last month.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before we do musicals again. Yeah, Christian, Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine definitely had very good chemistry in this film.
Yeah. They were the two alphas.
Yeah, they really were. Brendan saying Die Hard 2 is also a Christmas movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is true. Oh boy. We're going down the rabbit hole with that. And Paul is saying they released Die Hard in July to give it maximum.
They didn't even have the Halloween decorations up yet.
And Brian is also saying Nimi also did Meteor, we were talking about, which would be an amazingly bad disaster movie to review.
Yeah, don't put that up when I'm drinking a
Brian, it's funny. Brian saying hint. Brian, actually, we did that movie about 2 years ago. Almost.
Yeah, that was like the second or third movie we did because it was so bad.
Martin Landau was in it though, so there you
go. that was crazy that Ronald Neame did that. Having been nominated for Oscars and done these big movies, and then he turned around and did Meteor. I guess they all can't be.
Yeah,
can't be great. But
Leslie saying, "Love me some Ernest Borgnine." Yeah, Marty for Ernest Borgnine. There's the Academy.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But there was definitely a peak to the disaster movies, and it kind of went down pretty quickly at the end of the 70s, and Meteor was one of the lowest points. There was another one that I'd totally forgotten about until I was quickly boning up on this one, and that's When Time Ran Out. Do you remember that one?
Yes, but I do remember that. I remember the title, and was that around 79, 80 when that came out?
It was later than you think. It was 80. Yeah, and it had Paul Newman, and it had Ernest Borgnine was in it again.
Oh, okay.
William Holden.
Wow.
Yeah, and but I think I had read that the reason that Newman and Borgnine did it is because they had a long term contract. They had like a 3 picture contract with Irwin Allen or something. They just wanted to get it over with.
So that was an Irwin Allen movie then.
It was an Irwin Allen movie, and that's the thing. The he had, he had the 2 big hits. He had with the disaster movies. He had this one, and he had the Towering Inferno, which were against all odds. Towering Inferno was an amazing success also, but then they went down a hill in a hurry. And when they would say to Irwin Allen, it's like, well, are you out of disasters? No, stuff's happening all the time. There are disasters in the paper every day, and people love it. It's like a car accident. They can't look away. So he kind of like doubled down. And even after these things, you had the Swarm. And you had that one when the time ran out. But then he just kept making them. I don't know if you remember he did these disaster TV movies in the 80s. I don't know if you recall that or not.
Vaguely, if you gave me the titles, they probably would come to.
Oh man, now you're testing me. It just seemed like they were just interminable. He just kept coming out with these things. It's like Irwin Allen, the wave has passed. We're over it.
Well, while you're thinking of that, I want to say hi to Craig. Craig is joining us. Craig, welcome. Good to see you out there. He's saying, "Hey, fellas, love this film." Yeah, we really did too. Leslie is saying it's interesting that there are 2 alpha males that fight for the soul of the survivors. Yeah, good point. And Poseidon Adventure, the Towering Inferno, Earthquake, they don't make them like they used to. They do not.
Right. Earthquake came in between, didn't it?
Yes,
it came right around the time of yeah.
The Black Hole, I would say, does not count as a disaster movie. It might be, well, are you saying a disaster movie or is a disaster movie? And yes, we actually covered the Black Hole as well, too. That was one of our earlier ones.
Yeah.
Brian is saying Newman, Buttons, and Borgnine needed to get out of their contracts so that they did When Time Ran Out, which was originally Earth's Final Fury.
No, it was called When Time Ran Out, and then they changed it, I think, to Earth's Final Fury. I think he got I might be mistaken, but I think when it came to TV, they changed the title because it was such a disaster, a bomb at the box office that they were trying to cover their tracks. So, no, this is not the movie you think it is.
But here again, you're bringing up a good point, and again, it's so sad that it's like what was gold yesterday is like
people get tired
tomorrow.
Of it.
Yeah, and it's so sad. It's like you're cashing in on the moment, and again, every decade has its moment or its tones where things really come to surface, and it's just very spectacular. But then if you take that formula and you transport it maybe 10 years into the future, or maybe even still, if you did it 10 years earlier, it would not have been as successful or maybe a failure in the future. And it's a shame because he really was the king of the disaster films, but it's just it was time.
Or he became that because before that, of course, he had all the great science fiction films or series in the 60s. He was the king of that for a while. But, it's like lightning in a bottle also because it's not just it's partially the public's enthusiasm for it. You get played out on the novelty wears off, but also, how it is when you have a collaborative effort like that with film where you've got hundreds of people working on a movie, everything comes together perfectly. That's really an amazing thing because so much can go wrong or not quite meet up correctly. So when they try it again, oh wow, it worked twice. And then you do it again. It's like, well, it didn't quite work out that way.
Right.
And then they start slashing the budget or they can't afford the same,
Well, I really don't want to go down this other path, but I'm just going to throw it out there, folks, just for like 30 seconds, but we are not going to be talking about this movie, but I'm just going to put it out there. And what I'm going to say is, and true fans of this movie may know where I'm going with this. And of course there was Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
Oh, why are you going to talk about that?
Well, no, but my point is, though, it's you were saying lightning in the bottle, how it works. Yeah. There's that. And then again, we're not going to go there, but I'm just using that as an example to your point. There's where it works. And then there's where, they're trying to recreate it and go with it to extend it. And it doesn't. So anyway,
the only compliment I can pay, the only thing I can, it's just, at least they tried something different with it. It's a terrible movie, but at least they didn't just do the ship rolls over again or something.
Right. Yeah.
they tried something different, but sadly, it just did not work on any level.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's not even like not even not even worth watching for a laugh.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, Angela Cartwright from Lost in Space, isn't it? But there you go.
yeah, and
Brian said the night the bridge fell down, flood.
mm,
Commenting.
yeah,
Martin said Tower.
there was that. Yeah, I think that was one of the TV movies, possibly. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Okay, but
Mm.
thanks for sharing that, Brian. Martin said Towering Inferno, the precursor of Die Hard.
Well, see, yeah, it's interesting that so many of the disaster movies start out with some kind of there's some kind of greedy motivation. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like in this one, they've got to, Leslie Nielsen's warning about, the seas are rough and the ship is not in good shape, and we shouldn't push ahead. But
Right,
you
and
get the,
this is the ship's last voyage, and it's going from New York City to Athens, and it's her final voyage too.
right, right.
And go
But
ahead. I'm sorry.
no, but the guy, you have the bureaucrat there, the guy who's going to like force them, to go through. We got people paying for this, and you got to, and it's like that usually. It was like with Towering Inferno. You had,
Yep.
sleazy, wasn't it Richard?
I was going to say Richard Benjamin, but it wasn't Richard
No,
Benjamin.
not Richard Benjamin. Yeah, I know.
Um,
Oh man, the Thornbirds
Richard Chamberlain.
Richard Chamberlain is the
Yes.
sleeve. Yeah, yeah. There's always something like that. They every once in a while they try to revive the disaster movie. Roland Emmerich in the last couple of decades has done so many of those. Was it 2012 and the guy who did Godzilla and Independence Day and everything, he's fond of like blowing up entire cities and stuff. Every once in a while they would go back to this kind of thing. But I remember Sylvester Stallone did one. I think it was called Daylight, where they get caught in the Lincoln Tunnel, and it's one of those things where some greedy, sleazy corporate operatives decide to send toxic chemicals through the Lincoln Tunnel.
I vaguely remember
to
that.
dump them illegally in New Jersey, and it's always something like that that's going to like pave the way for disaster.
There's a lot of comments coming through here. Just going to try to catch up on some of them. Mark indicated, how about how about one of the better ones, Towering Inferno? Fred Astaire won an Oscar on that one.
Did he win an Oscar for it?
Yeah, I remember him being in it. Yeah,
somebody won an Oscar. I didn't remember if he did, but yeah.
Leslie saying, interesting fact, Alan asked Shelley Winters to gain about 20 pounds for this movie. She was too sexy to be a frumpy Jewish wife. And she wound up gaining 35 pounds, Leslie, supposedly. Colin said, I can't see much of a trash of today being remembered in decades to come. Boy. Eva saying, but what's old does become new. There is a cycle. Yeah, absolutely. It does recycle, and I miss the older stuff, obviously. And I'm with you, Eva. Bring it back. Sue said, I liked Meteor mainly because it starred Sean Connery, plus Brian Keith was really good too.
Astaire was nominated for Towering Inferno. Yeah,
okay.
I didn't think he won for that, but anyway,
said,
continue.
Remember when Irwin was going to open a theme park called Irwin Allen World or something like that? It never came to fruition. I think he died before it got past the planning stage. Oh, that would have been something. But folks might have been worried about going on some of those rides.
But it would have been half as deadly as Action Park, though.
Oh my God, Action Park! Ross, I was just talking about Action Park with somebody from work just last week.
Yeah,
wasn't that was in Vernon, New Jersey, wasn't it?
It was somewhere in northern Jersey there.
Yeah.
They showed the commercials again incessantly through our childhoods and teen years, and somebody was always getting hurt at Action Park or killed. Yeah, they always shut it down. Well, that's the thing. They wouldn't shut it down. They kept it going. In fact, I think there's a documentary about it called Class Action Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, because that kind of
Class action lawsuit.
Yeah, yeah. And there was also, do you remember? Was it Jungle Habitat? Wasn't that what it was called? That was in North Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back in the 70s where you'd drive through it was one of the safari parks, and you'd drive through and baboons would attack your car like in The Omen. But people would go through with the windows down and stuff. these idiots would go through, and it was they were the hand cranked windows. They weren't the they
The
weren't
automatic
the
up and down.
windows. Yeah, yeah. So
I don't know.
yeah,
That
they
was
might
you,
have
wasn't
gotten
it,
that one
Ross?
down too. What do you say?
Admit it. Admit it.
What's that? Yeah, no, I went through it with the windows up. Yeah, I got to see it in the '70s.
Oh, and Leslie said, yes, even the 90s, you had Twister, Armageddon, Deep Impact. And in 2000s, you had 2012 and Day After Tomorrow.
Mm.
Yeah.
But you never seem to get like the human that the human element that you get with the Poseidon Adventure, which which I don't quite understand because oh yeah, Dante's Peak with Pierce Brosnan. Yeah. Uh,
Jack Daly. Jack, welcome to the show. Hope
oh,
you're
that's
doing
not
good.
kind.
Oh, you said,
That's not kind. Poor
Jack,
Shelley
Jack,
Withers. Oh.
Jack. Linda is in the house. Linda, welcome.
Happy
Linda,
New Year,
Happy New Year. She's joining us from Canada. Welcome, Linda. Good to see you there.
Sardas.
Zardoz.
My favorite disaster movie.
Martin, a ship named after a male god, so it had to sink.
That's
Where's
right.
Matt?
The hubris.
Where's Matt when you need him?
Yeah.
Mark is saying Planet of the Apes was the poster child of how sequels can go downhill fast.
We've talked about this
Yeah,
many times. Yeah.
And Brian is saying Richard Chamberlain was the sleaze in the Towering Inferno.
Right. Right.
Yes, Sue is commenting about Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
And sadly, it wasn't a TV movie.
Yeah, no, it was not.
Yeah.
And Gary said, yep, Vernon was there twice. It was Vernon, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. And he survived. He lived to tell the tale. Yeah.
He's not watching his YouTube chat. I don't know who this is, but hello.
You just flash this stuff up at random, don't you? You don't even look at what conversation.
I'm just trying to catch up on everything.
Okay.
Zardoz. Colin commented, it was made in a time when characters were made for films instead of just relying more on effects. Yes,
I agree. And it's not like the dialogue was Shakespeare or anything, but they had presence, and you really got a feel for, I guess because the actors were also so well known that they kind of brought that gravitas with them, so you really felt like there's something at stake when these people were going to get killed.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Blake, thanks for joining us. Blake, I work with Blake. How's it going, Blake? Welcome to the show. First time viewer. Good to see you out there. Hope you're enjoying. Yes, I know you are, Blake. Welcome. And yes, we were talking about the Poseidon Adventure. But yeah, exactly. When you have to depend upon when the effects are driving the story, it is not a good thing because it can only go so far. The plot, the movie, the characterizations, all of that should really be driving everything as opposed to the other way around. It's a recipe for disaster when films or television shows attempt to do that. So anyway, with that.
Let's get the guy who was in McHale's Navy to be in our movie.
Yeah, exactly. McHale's Navy, 4 years that television show was on. And that's what I always think of when I think of Ernest Borgnine. I mean,
yeah.
But what a career.
Marty was the Oscar winner. Yeah.
Yeah. What was interesting about him, though, was, he did a lot of different types of odd jobs, worked in a factory, really wasn't happy. And I guess his mom, said, you know what, you're really good with people. Why don't you try to do something, where you're interacting? So what happened was he went for it. And he, he had even commented and quoted as saying that, his dad wasn't very happy about his desire to go into filmmaking or, television. But 10 years later, he was receiving an Academy Award from, that was presented by Grace Kelly for Marty. So that's not too shabby.
Yeah, and he was in a lot of good movies and had a decades long career, and he lived for somebody like Ernest Borg, you wouldn't expect Ernest Borgnine to be the healthiest guy in the world, right? But he lived well into his 90s, from what I recall.
Yeah, actually, Vince and I and Shari, we actually saw him. He was at Chiller because he was at Chiller a lot of times.
Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah, he was there.
Wow.
Yeah, he was probably like in his 90s at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. How'd he look?
He looked old. He looked
old.
Yeah, wow. But he was good though. I mean, he was he was very vibrant, but he was
Yeah.
And I think he passed away in 2012, if I remember correctly.
Mm.
But let's share some of the screen with the folks, and just as we kind of look at some of the movie memories, just to go through. Now, Leslie Nielsen, obviously. Now, Leslie Nielsen, there's an actor who reinvented himself. I mean,
Mhm.
he actually started out as a dramatic actor, leading man type of actor, but then the 70s, and he started doing pretty much probably like a little bit after this film was doing a lot of heavy type characters. He was essentially the protagonist, and kind of shifted gears with that. And then what happened was he got into comedy, and that
Mm.
that started with the Airplane movies in 1980. And
Right.
then he actually did Police Squad in color, if anybody remembers that. That was like 6 episodes, and it was by the Zucker brothers. That was so he had a really impressive career.
Yeah, that's just about all he did later on was the
Yeah.
comedy. But again, our perception of time. Remember, we did Forbidden Planet, and yeah, it seems like forever before Poseidon Adventure. But really, what year was that? It was in the 50s. Was it
Yeah,
51? What was it?
56, I think it was.
56. So what is? I guess it's a good amount of time. It's about 16 years before this. Yeah. So
Yeah.
well, he did a lot in between though.
Right.
He's
Right.
just
But it's crazy, Ross. 15 years seems like nothing. I mean, when you think back 15 years
yeah.
ago, but it depends on where you are in your career and your age and everything. But
Right. Right.
some of these actors, I mean, like, with Leslie Nielsen, I don't even know how old he was. He was probably only like in his late 40s when, or maybe close to maybe early 50s when he did this, which,
Mm.
which is kind of amazing.
Yeah. Well, like I always say, there are movies that were out in the '90s that I still feel that I wanted to see. That I go, oh my god, it was the '90s. It feels like it was just out.
Right. It's
Yeah,
literally 30 years ago, which is
so
insane.
it's, yeah, but everybody who's watching this knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Even if they
exactly.
don't know what I'm saying, they know what I'm talking about.
Leslie's saying I met Ernest at Chiller in 2011. You know what? I think that's probably when it was, Leslie. I think it was in
Mm.
2011. Thinking about it, because I think that's when we were there. It's crazy. It was
Wow.
11 years ago already. Colin is saying that Dracula comedy film he did was
Yeah,
hilarious. Yeah, that's right.
Dracula Dead and Loving It. Yeah.
Yep. And Sue saying Leslie Nielsen also did an episode of MASH. I
Hmm.
did not see that. And MASH ran longer than the war itself, the Vietnam War, but that
Hmm.
was or Korean War, excuse me.
Korean War. Yeah. Right.
Korean War. It was from 72 to 83. So that show was on for 11 years. Mark is saying, didn't he have a famous actor brother? Leslie Nielsen? If he did, I'm
Mm.
not aware of it. Could
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 be.
uh could be, yeah, definitely. And yeah. Remember Leslie Nielsen, the gag that he used to do when he'd go on he'd meet people or do interviews, he had the that buzzer, and it was like it would start making noises and stuff.
What, like a whoopee cushion or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Ah.
He was saying he was in Wagon Train in the 60s. Yeah.
Mm.
And Paul saying I keep seeing him in a bunch of Alfred Hitchcock and Twilight Zones. Yeah.
Mm.
Like again, very, very prominent career. But yeah, so here's some different scenes from the movie. And then this is a scene where he's pretty much being told that they can't push the engines, and he's got the pressure of outside forces telling him. And then here's the scene where right before midnight, because they're gonna
Yeah.
bring in
Couldn't
the
have
new.
timed it any better.
Yeah.
But Gene Hackman's going on about the indifference of God and the universe and this and the other. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about indifference to have the tidal wave strike at midnight on New Year's. I think there's some intent behind this. I don't think it was very indifferent. But anyway.
There you go. And then there you go.
But as I said, I've had worse New Year's than this. Yeah.
No, that scene. Wow, what
Yeah.
a scene.
Yeah, that's the one they showed in the trailer. That
Yeah,
made me go, "Ooh, Poseidon Adventure." I'm
yeah.
6. I'm 6 years old, and I'm scared.
Yeah, but you know what? You couldn't have been as scared as you were the year before when you saw the Omega Man.
And the Omega Man. Yeah.
Poor Ross, scarred from life.
Even my dad didn't take me to see this one.
Mark said, I seem to think it was James Ann's May. Want to look it up. You mean James Arness, and that's what he was
Wow.
saying. Yeah, yeah. No, they were not brothers. James Arness's brother, believe it or not, was Peter Graves.
Peter Graves,
That's then
right?
you're yeah, that's who you're thinking of. Yeah, James Arness and Peter Graves. James Arness, obviously, a lot of the folks out there will know him from Gunsmoke, which was I think that show was on for 25 years. That had a lot of history. Colin saying the film still grips today. When the wave first hits and the ship turns over, it must have been totally horrific type stuff when released. See, now that scene had to be, I mean, it was powerful seeing it on the TV. I mean, watching it on the, fairly large screen.
Mhm.
But to see this movie like at the State Theater and to see this in Sense-Around, wow. I can only
Mhm.
imagine how powerful that is. And for the folks out there that have actually seen this movie in the theater, I that has to be really, really powerful. I mean,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the first time I saw this had to be on TV. I mean, I have seen it on the big screen because I couldn't have seen it on the big screen at 6. Yeah, I would remember. I
pretty
would
still the
think.
Omega Man.
I mean, I saw a Mega Man, but I'm pretty sure I'd remember if I saw a Poseidon Adventure at 6. But I think I saw it as you did on television, and then later I saw it on the big screen.
Yeah, well,
But yeah, so yeah,
it hit ABC in 1974, so it's 48 years ago. So that would time out, right? I mean,
yeah,
math wise, I mean, what you would have been, what, 13? No, what am I saying? 13. You would have been
yeah. I, I know definitely I
eight.
saw it in '84 on the big screen because we saw it. We had a great film program in college, and we had a pretty good theater. So I definitely did see it there, because I remember.
That was a temple, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember being excited because it was the John Williams score and everything.
Yeah,
So
that had to be pretty cool.
yeah,
Martin is saying the thing for James Arness. Absolutely, and Christian too. Uh, Mark said, "Oh, no, it's all right, Mark. Don't worry about it." Linda's saying the Omega Man, and she's giving you the smiley face, Ross.
made me what I am.
Made
Yeah.
you what you are today.
For better or worse. Yeah.
Martin is saying, I watched this film on my 53-inch 4K TV yesterday. Nice, Martin. Very nice.
Mm.
And Jeff is saying when they wanted sense around, didn't they just turn the speakers way up? Oh,
You didn't
boy.
have the distortion. They brought in those subwoofers or whatever they were until the plaster started dropping out of the ceiling. Yeah.
Paul saying this was another Channel 100 first for me.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Channel 100, which was HBO, where we watched this on Prism back in the day.
Yeah.
Exactly. How cool is that?
Early pay
Yeah.
TV.
And Linda said, I saw it in the theater at the time because I'm old. You're not old, Linda. You're not, you youngin.
Mm.
And Lou said, I saw it in the theater, but it was one of those Mick theaters, not a huge screen, but it was still frightening.
Yeah.
Still cool, though. I love hearing these stories where folks, had that opportunity. So thank you for sharing that. That's very, very cool. But yeah, great stunt sequence. And yeah, here you get to see too. And it was amazing what they did with the sets too. I mean, as
Yeah.
far as, the construction and everything and how they had everything.
Yeah. Yeah. They did a little bit of that. It was funny. It was hard to gauge. Some of the scenes, it felt like there were only 10 people in the ballroom. And then other shots, you could tell it was really crowded.
Right.
And then when the chaos started in, they had a little bit of the Star Trek tilt the camera kind of thing going on. But all in all, they did a great job with the. But who knows why the chairs were nailed to the ceiling? But when the pianos weren't nailed, like
Right.
okay, let's nail down all the furniture, but we'll let the pianos crush everyone.
Yeah. And interesting too. I mean, it was almost like they, I'm not going to go through this, through the
Oh,
whole movie, but the point is when all this disaster starts, well, even before the disaster, the purser has a large ego, and he's going on about himself and almost like saying he's like the most important person on the ship. And then when the disaster strikes and everybody's pretty much been thrown all about, and they're the survivors are in trying to get their bearings and figure everything out, he starts barking the orders and everything, and then he's telling everybody not to listen to Gene Hackman's character, the Reverend, that they'll be rescued. And then he's telling, again, it's like the battle of the power, just trying to, find out which direction everything's going to go in. And while all this is happening, and then they make their way up, they use the Christmas tree to get to the top because they feel, using the logic, if the ship is upside down, if they were on top, now they're on the bottom, they have to get to the top. And they're trying to persuade the people to go up. And then a handful, which is the main cast of this movie, make their way. And then, of course, you're waiting to see what's going to happen. And of course, then the water starts, busting through, and then they're all trying to make for the tree, and he's trying to help them. And then, of course, the tree just topples, and then,
yeah. So all the extras get killed.
Yeah.
Well, all the main actors survive.
125 extras too, Ross. Like, there was a lot of folks out there.
There you go.
Those scenes.
Groovy.
Yeah, thanks to Robin and his friend Charlie in engineering. Liz says, I watched that the other night, part of my regular Christmas viewing.
Yeah.
And Jeff is saying, I never noticed that before. The chairs were nailed to the ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Martin is saying Doctor Who did an homage to this film with the episode Voyage of the Damned. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Do you remember the Hindenburg, by the way?
Yes, I do.
Another disaster film. Robert Wise did that one, I think.
That was in the 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah. That one had a little bit of little something for everybody. That disaster film.
You know what we could do, Ross? We could do a series of disaster films. That's all. That might be something.
Yeah.
It's not so much sci-fi, but it definitely. I think, you know what we'll do? Instead of doing one after another, we will do at least one disaster. I mean, there's a lot of them, and with 2023 coming up, we'll do one disaster film a month. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
So a quarter of our, and then we'll do a musical.
But I promise not to sing.
We'll alternate.
Nah, no alternating.
I don't know if I want to commit to a disaster movie a month.
Oh, so we should just do them all in a row and get them over with. Is that what you're saying?
Do them all at once.
Yeah. Brian said the chairs were secured to the floor as was customary for the RMS Queen Mary, the model that was the base for the SS Poseidon in case of bad weather.
Yeah. I know that they often will secure the tables and what have you. I didn't know that they did that with the chairs.
No, I didn't know that either. So that's interesting. Yeah, and speaking of the Queen Mary, they actually filmed part of this movie on the Queen Mary, which was kind of cool.
I know they credit them prominently in the end credits. I thought, oh, how proud they must be. It's like, oh yes, who would want to sail on a ship that was the basis for an Irwin Allen disaster movie?
I think they might bring a positive attention though, because I mean, I think the fact that it took place, I could see that going in two different directions. Yeah. I could see folks being kind of like, maybe scared, or maybe be like, really, is there something to this movie? Or, wow, there was a film crew here and they were actually, this is where they did this. This is where they shot up this scene. I think depending upon the individual, it could either go in two different types of directions with that. So
show me where Red Button sat. I think it was his bow tie that flipped the ship, by the way. You see the size of that thing? Red Button's bow tie. And a lot of ruffles. There were a lot of ruffles. Yeah.
Lou is saying Space 1999, the musical.
With the little rights registered thing he put after it. Lou's really good at that. That's what sells the joke. The little TMs that he always uses.
Lou's on point. Christian commented and said, Liz, I also read the Arthur Haley's novel Airport back then. I loved it so much that I read his books all the books I could find.
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk about Paul Gallico, whose book this was based on.
It was based on. No, we didn't.
Yeah, he was a sports writer for the New York Daily News. That's how he made his, that was his claim to fame. In fact, like one of his big early stories was we went to interview Jack Dempsey, and he challenged Dempsey to a bout, and he got to write about what it was like to get knocked out by Jack Dempsey. and people loved this. It was kind of like a George Plimpton approach to the sports writing. He would actually participate in these things, but he interviewed a lot of big athletes of the day back in the 40s.
Okay.
So he wrote the Lou Gehrig story, or the book that became the Lou Gehrig story. The movie with Gary Cooper and Teresa Wright was based on his book. So we're talking about 1940s. So he's been around. Poseidon Adventure was 72, so 30 years earlier. And he wrote a book called The Snow Goose. I don't know if you remember this book at all.
No.
It's been reprinted a ton of times. I never read it, but I always saw it. It's like Paul Gallico. Didn't he write? Because I always associate it with modern things, like Poseidon Adventure. But he had written a very popular story for the Saturday Evening Post. And it was he made it into a novella called The Snow Goose. And, it really connected with a lot of people. But the Poseidon Adventure was really what kicked off the latter phase of his career. And supposedly, I didn't read the book, but supposedly it took a lot of liberties from the original.
Well, wasn't he on a cruise ship or supposedly, and the ship had had encountered currents, or it was rough winds and everything, and that was kind of what inspired him to write.
That's usually what happens whenever I go on a boat. So it probably happened. Hey, yeah, let's go see the whales. Oh, I don't feel so good.
Well, it's funny. Sherry and I actually went on a cruise, and it was back. It was in 2008. It was January of 2008. So it was lit. I can't believe it's 15 years ago already. Yeah. But when we went on that, I had to take Dramamine for that because and then they gave you something that you put on your wrist, and it was supposed to hit pressure points, and it was supposed to help, which it did a little bit between that and the Dramamine. So
did you go to the bar? Did Isaac set you up? Did
not that time. The Love Boat reference, I love it. Hey, in regards to us doing disaster movies, Brian commented. He said, "I'd be happy to co-host a swarm show." Just saying. So we can have you on for that, Brian. That would be great. That'd be awesome.
The killer bees. Sure.
Yeah. And Brennan jumped in and said, "Definitely do the swarm." So yeah. Okay.
I consider that. Sure.
And then Martin says, "Wasn't the Mary docked in LA when they filmed this?" I believe so. I think it was. Yeah. And Dennis is saying that the model still exists. Yeah, and in fact, isn't the model with the Queen Mary? I think they actually have it there, if I'm not mistaken. Leslie said the Queen Mary is docked in LA and is a de facto Poseidon museum. Okay, very cool.
It's unfortunate that they remade this.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they remade it, and I think it was in 2006, and I think Red Buttons had the opportunity to see it just before he passed away too, because he died around the same time. But did you see the remake or no?
No, I didn't. Wolfgang Petersen was the director, and he's the guy that did Das Boot, the submarine movie, which was a great movie, but there was a lot of CG, and I guess I shouldn't trash it having not seen it, but I just think, when a movie's been around for decades and people have been talking about it and referencing it, and it's kind of become, emblematic in its own right or iconic, that to go and remake it, when it didn't need remaking, they should remake Beyond the Poseidon Adventure is what they should do and try to fix that one. Get Michael Caine to come back.
Yeah, there you go.
And a tone.
Linda commented. She said, "Poseidon Adventure is one of those rare moments that the movie is better than the book." And Brian is saying Calico was on the Queen Mary when it hit a rogue wave in 1945. It almost turned the ship on its side, and that's what gave him the inspiration for Poseidon Adventure.
Oh, I did not know that. Very cool.
Great tidbit. Thanks for sharing that, Brian.
Well, those waves can get pretty roguey. They can get pretty big. My grandfather was in the Pacific, during the Second World War, and he would talk about how they would just hammer, the waves would get so big, they would just hammer the ship. They dent the ships, they get so violent, and people would be hanging over the sides, throwing up. they have trash barrels all along, drums all along the deck, but people couldn't get to them,
Uh,
from the rough seas. Yeah.
Leslie's saying you didn't miss anything, Roy. The remake was terrible.
I think
Of,
there was a TV movie version of it too. I think they remade it twice, but I'm not sure about that.
oh, I'm not sure.
Mm.
Dennis is saying the Queen Mary was a roller, as they say, had to install handrails in the eye and the hallways after her maiden.
Mm.
And Christian said Ross, the miniseries made later, was more faithful to
Mm.
the original novel. It's a spy thriller too.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah. So there
Okay.
you go in regards to that. Let me share some more photos from the movie. Do that. I think that's where we left. And what was interesting too, which they did, was they filmed this movie in order. So in
Mm.
regards to, I guess it helped to keep things going, kept things on pace, and then obviously especially with their clothing, as things got worse and worse, and as they got more into their characters and more through the storyline. I mean, as you see, they get more and more tattered, and also most of them did their own stunts,
Mm.
and they were almost like competing in regards to doing their stunts, trying to out top of each other. But of course, then you have to draw the line where things are being done, because you don't want your actors to get hurt. And there's going to be a time where you have to actually use stunt people, because in regards to that, if something should happen, you can really have a problem with the production.
Now I read conflicting things here. Now Ronald Neame directed the movie, but I think I also read that Irwin Allen may have had something to. He may have been hands on with the action scenes, like with
Mm,
the actual stunts and things. Which is funny because it seems like whenever he went to direct any of the films, he was like savaged by the critics. The films did not do well, like Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. You know, and I think he got funding for one of the later disaster films. On the stipulation that he would not be directing it, that they get somebody else to direct it. It's like, yeah,
okay.
we'll give you the money, but you can't direct it. But I may be mistaken. I know for Towering Inferno, it was definitely true that he stepped in. Like supposedly, you always hear Spielberg stepped in with Poltergeist on certain scenes and
Right.
helped kind of,
Excuse me.
say maybe it should be done this way. Kind of thing. And I think Irwin Allen may have had that kind of influence on portions of this movie where he was on set. I'm not sure, but I
No, I
think.
was going to say too, because with Irwin Allen, he directed, a lot of his. Again, Irwin Allen's been around, directing movies from like you were saying, from the 50s and the 60s. I mean, before he was doing the television shows. I mean, immediately for what was it, 1960, was it 61, was Voyage to Bottom of the Sea. I
Voice
mean,
of the Sea,
it
right?
just celebrated its 60th anniversary. We did that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was it? The movie with the balloons? I can't think of the name of the title of
Five
it.
Weeks in a Balloon
5 Weeks in a Balloon. That
with
was, I
red
think,
buttons.
60.
Yeah,
Yeah,
based on the Jules Verne book. He did Story of Mankind, which we kind of bandied back and forth maybe about doing at some point with Vincent Price as the devil and
right.
Ronald Coleman is the voice of mankind or whatever it is, the spirit of mankind. It's the one that's the all again an all star cast. Groucho Marx is in it. The Marx Brothers are in it. Uh, everybody's basically in that movie. Um,
The Lost World. He did that.
the Lost Word, the one with Claude Rains, right?
Yeah. David Hedison was in that. In fact, they used a
Okay.
lot of stock footage from that, and they would use it in Voyage to Bottom of the Sea episodes. I mean, because
Yeah.
Irwin Allen was the king of the stock footage too. I mean, he was all about budgeting and
Right. Right.
with regards to that. Um, some of the comments coming through. Yes, Leslie, very good point. Shelley Winters did her own swimming. In fact, she trained with an Olympic swimmer to make sure that she, was up to task, and she wanted to be, they wanted her to be believable. She wanted to be believable. And in regards to that, and really, really, I mean, the characterizations and everything with the people and everything, the way that comes through, I mean, just so powerful. The acting was just very, very potent in regards to their performances. Um, Brian is saying Allen was hands-on with the action scenes, but not as much as Tower and Inferno, where he actually had credit.
Mm-hmm.
And Martin is saying it could be worse. You could do Raise the Titanic. Yeah, and interesting enough, Raise the Titanic is the reason why Space 1999 did not go into a third season too, because the entire budget of a third year of 1999 was the budget for Raise the Titanic. And what happened was Sir Lou Grade wanted to get back into the movies and get away from television. And unfortunately, that's what happened with that. If only Star Wars had come out a little bit sooner, things would have been different with that. Leslie's saying, "Hey, now that's a great title film.
Great little film.
Great little film.
I don't know which one she's talking about. But
and she also commented,
Orca. Yeah.
So there you go. But yeah, this. I mean, not to give any spoilers away if you haven't seen the film, but in regards to Shelley Winter's character and everything that happens with Belle and that, and then even with Gene Hackman. I remember seeing this movie. The memory I have of this was it was on, probably a Sunday night. Was watching it with my parents, and I had to go to school. Went to bed, did not see it to the end, and remember asking my mom the next morning what happened, and I remember her telling me about the scene, and with Gene Hackman as Reverend Frank Scott and what he does, and it always stuck with me. I never forgot that. So when I finally did see it, it was just so powerful because, I mean, he's just, he keeps true. I mean, the character. I mean, he stays true. I mean, he's with everything that happens, he's almost angry. He's angry with God. It's like he's saying, we're not asking for your help, but why are you like getting in, why are you trying to block everything? Why every turn, everything we do? And, he has such a, head to head with Ernest Borgnine. And it's almost like he's lets his guard down as essentially as he's in his final moments, and he's smiling, and he's just like, I'm helping you. I'm giving you the way to get out. And, and then Ernest Borgnine is dealing with his own grief of everything that's happened. It's just amazing characterization, amazing acting. And if you have not seen this, or you've not seen the film in a long time, definitely watch it. It truly holds up, and it's great acting, and it's just a great movie.
It makes you think that fate is really nasty.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because Hackman's character does say to Borgnine at a point, it's like, I think you and I are a lot alike. You know what I mean? It's like Borgnine is kind of like the like not quite as evolved form of Gene Hackman. He's the angrier kind of. Hackman's pretty angry too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But he's constructively angry. He's constructively angry, whereas Borgnine's usually not in this movie. Yeah. But
he's just more of a refined character, but they're very, very much alike. Yeah, Leslie says when Linda dies right after Belle, that's the straw. Exactly. And then I'm sorry, Leslie said that. Sorry. And then
me too. Me too.
That scene always stuck with me too. Yeah, absolutely. But it's just very, very powerful. But so and then it's crazy. They get because they're almost there, and like what Ross was saying, as you're watching this, you're trying to think. I mean, I don't know. It's something that I personally do when I'm watching a film that I haven't seen. I'm always trying to figure out, okay, what's going to happen. It's like you're almost like writing the story as you're watching it. You're formulating things, and you're thinking, are they going to go in this direction? Are they going to go that direction? Is this a red herring? Is this Chekhov's gun? Is it just something that really doesn't mean anything? It's just something that's really subtle. You don't know, but it's interesting when you're trying to figure it out as it's evolving. You're evolving through the picture, and a lot of these things that happen in this, it seems like, okay, well, they didn't do any of this, and all of a sudden, bam! Well, where did that come from? What are you kidding me? I mean, really? And it's just mind blowing. And it's like, I mean, that's how this movie affected me with different scenes and what happens to different cast members. It's like, where did that come from?
Right.
It's very intense.
That it is. The screenwriter was Sterling Silliphant, who was best known, or is best known probably, as the Academy Award winner for the screenplay of In the Heat of the Night with Sidney Poitier and
Rod Steiger.
Rod Steiger, exactly, which is a great movie. You know, I mean, the
1967.
screenplay is helped a hell of a lot by the actors. You know, but it's a good solid film, and it's funny to me that he kind of fell in with Irwin Allen, and he kept doing these disaster scripts. You know, after this, because I think even in the later ones, it started to tank. You'd often see Sterling Silliphant's name.
Yeah.
On the screenplay. He wrote like 700 TV scripts, teleplays.
Oh my God, did he really?
Yeah, and never won an Emmy. Like everybody else would win Emmys for his work, you know, for his script, you know, being in his things that he scripted, but he never won an Emmy. But he did win an Oscar, so yeah. So,
that's impressive, Ross.
Well, that is damned impressive. What did we do last week? What was the movie we saw last week?
Oh, we did Scrooge.
Scrooge.
Yeah.
1970
film.
What did we do before that? No, because he's one of these guys that just wrote so much and it just kind of poured from him. And maybe
The Littlest Angel we did the week before.
The Littlest Angel. That I forget who did the script for that. It was based on that book by who did the adaptation of it? It might have been him. It was one of those guys where you know, I just flush everything after we do these things. But it was one of those deals where you just see how much they poured into these things, especially like in the 50s where they had to keep churning out content.
Right.
You know, they just wrote so prolifically. And you know, so Sterling Silliphant was the script writer for this. And I didn't think all the dialogue was particularly great. You know, it kind of like set up the relationships between the characters and stuff. You know, you had, you know, Borgnine, the cop, the detective, or what have you, and Stella Stevens was supposed to be a reformed prostitute. You know, and they had that thing going on, and you had, you know, Hackman had his issues with, you know, the and the uncaring universe, and this is what we've got to do because God doesn't care about us. He cares about, you know, us getting to the next level, and we got to take care of ourselves. And, you know, I mean, yeah, you had all the motivations and stuff there, and I guess that was enough. But, you know, some of this stuff was filled in a little more thoroughly than others. You know, you had Red Buttons, and you had, you know, Carol Lindley, where she never really changes. She was perpetually terrified, and Red Buttons was always trying to talk her through the next, you know, hurdle when they were trying to escape from the ship, you know, from the flood waters and the explosions and what have you. So, I mean, Shelley Winters had you know, I mean, the Jack Albertson and Shelley Winters, they set him up with the Yiddish, and they're going home to visit their grandkid, and you know, this was going to be the big reunion with the kid, which they haven't seen since he was a baby, and you know, so you have that whole, you know, thing to lend the poignancy. It's like, oh, are they going to make it home? Are they going to get to see the kid?
Right. Yeah.
Or are we going to cry?
Christian said it's a film about faith, as William Fricken said so often.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, she was a swimmer too. But again, that was her character, though.
Yeah. Yeah, somehow it works. It works on like this primal level, you know, for being such a simplistic movie. It's got some other stuff going on in it, but
it does. You know. I think there's a lot of chemistry. I think there's a lot of conflict, and you're yearning for the hope that they're going to make it, and you're hoping that they're all going to make it, and knowing that that's probably not going to be the case. And there's the suspense factor of what are they going to come up against as they're trying to make their way through. So I think it has a lot of things going on at the same time.
And it never kind of like makes that leap where you don't believe, you know, what they're doing. You know, everything is very believable. And, you know, you're just kind of, it's always entertaining. You know what I mean? It's never like any longers or no boring spots. You know, you're always, as you say, it's suspenseful, but you're also very interested in what the characters are doing.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't really have a lot of lulls to it. It's just
yeah,
constantly moving, which is what you want for a film like this.
and yet it's not that kind of exhausting thing that you get with the films today, where they cut them so quickly that you don't really have time to embrace the characters and get to know them, and you know
Yeah, no, very very well said.
yeah, I don't know about
Um,
that,
I want to one
but I
one
know
of the
what I
things
mean. Yeah.
you know what you mean. I know what you mean. One of the things we like to say on this show is that all roads do lead to Star Trek, and in this case, they do. As the engineer, chief engineer of the ship is Chief Engineer Joe, is actor
Mhm.
John Crawford, who actually was in the Star Trek episode The Galileo 7. He played Commissioner Ferris,
Mhm.
and he was the thorn in Kirk's side in regards to giving Kirk a time limit for Kirk to locate the crew members of the Galileo, which was titled the Galileo 7.
So basically, this guy's a pain in the ass whenever he's on your ship.
Well, he was not so much in not so much in the Poseidon Adventure, but
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. He's like, I hope he hears me. He's standing right here.
hey Don, welcome. Good to see you out there. Don't worry about being late. Glad you're doing good, and good to see
Yeah.
you there. Glad you were able to make it. Paul saying, well, Sterling Sylvan didn't do the littlest angel, but he did do Shaft in
I smell Oscar.
Africa. And yes, Jeff Verbal. He also was the time merchant on Lost in Space. And if you are a Waltons fan, he was a regular on the Waltons
Uh,
television series too.
I think Shaft in Africa was the third of the Shaft films.
Was it really?
I think so.
Shaft. What was that actor's name? Richard
Roundtree.
Roundtree. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So we actually had talked about the director already, and the director.
Lol meme. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
we
He we go back and watch last week. He was he worked with Alfred Hitchcock. He worked with David Lean. Worked very closely with David Lean as a cinematographer and then a producer and a writer. Worked on the Charles Dickens movies, the adaptations that Lean did of Oliver Twist and Great Expectations. Scored a couple of Oscars along the way. But we talked about Scrooge last week, and
yeah.
he was the director of that. And wasn't it was the film he did right before this, wasn't it? Didn't
Yes,
you
it
tell me that?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that came out in 1970. This is 1972.
Yeah, so things were going quite well until Meteor. Then he did Meteor, and it negated everything he did before.
Blue. I'm still hoping that for that morning after duet at the end with Roy and Ross, aka the Poseidon Brothers.
Hey, hey, if I can get those groovy sideburns and mutton chops and whatever the heck else they were wearing in that band, I'll do it.
Hey, Mateo, thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well. He's Mateo saying, I believe
He
Sylvan was a
was.
student of Bruce Lee. Wow.
He
Very cool.
was. He and Bruce Lee and James Coburn were at work on a movie when Bruce Lee died,
Oh, geez.
and David Carradine wound up taking over the Bruce Lee part. I can't remember the name of the movie right now,
Hmm.
but yeah, they were both. Yeah, he used to take lessons with Bruce Lee, as did James Coburn.
I could see that. I could
Yeah.
totally see that or believe that, really.
He may have written the Marlowe movie with James Garner that had Bruce Lee in it.
Okay.
He had a small part in it, but Silliphant may have done that.
Hmm.
Yeah. I love that name, Sterling Silliphant.
What a name. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah,
It has a ring to it.
he's part Oliphant. Yeah.
And as far as the music, Ross, wow.
Yeah. Who is this? Yeah, I'm very happy to see that this guy had a success. Thank God. Thank God John Williams got to score the most popular movie of the year, because it would never happen again. Yeah.
Oh boy, just the
But
beginning.
yeah, he was. Irwin Allen was was great about working with these people that worked with him again and again on every project. I mean, Williams worked with him on Lost in Space and
Yeah.
Land of the Giants and Time Tunnel. So yeah, made the jump to the big screen here with this one. And interestingly, Williams, like Hackman, just won an Oscar for his first one for Fiddler on the Roof. He did the orchestral score, not the songs. It was based on the musical, but he did the incidental and arrangements of incidental music and arrangements for Fiddler on the Roof, which also employed Isaac Stern as the violinist on the soundtrack. But yeah, so here we have the Poseidon Adventure, huge hit for John Williams. And this is before he even worked with Steven Spielberg. Spielberg's Sugarland Express was in '74.
Okay.
So he hadn't even really caught that wave yet. And it's because of his work with Spielberg that he met George Lucas and did Star Wars and, before that Jaws with Spielberg. So, this is one of those things where people knew John Williams and didn't know they knew John Williams. You know what I mean? Everybody had seen this movie, but they didn't know that most people didn't know that they were familiar with John Williams before Jaws.
Well, it always amazed me too. And I mean, this is just because of the time frame and everything with that. Oh, wait a minute, before I go into that, Eva, Happy New Year. And thanks for tuning in tonight. Glad that you were able to be out there, and we will see you next year. So be safe, and we'll see you, Eva. Happy New Year, Eva. In regards to Johnny Williams, and then hearing about John Williams and then wondering, is that the same person? And of course it was, but it was very interesting in regards to that.
Yeah.
One comment I want to put up there, Mark was asking if that was Kung Fu that you're referring to. I was actually thinking that myself because with David
Carradine. David Carradine was in the series Kung Fu,
but it was
because of his association with that series that they put him in place of Bruce Lee, but that was not the name of the movie.
That's what I thought, because Kung Fu was a TV series, not a movie.
I think they shot the movie in India, whatever it was.
Oh, okay.
There was some kind of deal with the money, like they couldn't. I don't know. It was some kind of complex thing where they weren't allowed to touch. Some studio here in the United States was not allowed to touch the money that they had overseas, and they had to shoot the film in India.
Oh, geez! Wow.
Yeah. So I don't even know how I know all that, and I may be making it up. Who knows?
Yeah, makes for a good story.
I read about it at some point, but I can't remember the details. Or I can remember the details, but I can't put them in any kind of whatever.
Okay, order. Brennan just commented real quickly. He said, a small movie I would recommend as a disaster film is The Crazies, about a chemical spill that turns a town crazy, made by George Romero after Night of the Living Dead. I did see part of this or heard about this, and yeah, that would be interesting. That would be kind of fun actually to do.
Yeah. So I was going to say about Williams. Yeah, the other thing, of course, was The Morning After in this film, the song, which he had nothing to do with. That was Al Kasha and Joel Hirschhorn. There you go. And this week has been crazy for me, so I haven't been able to look into any of their other work. This movie won 2 Oscars, one for Best Original Song and one for that special Oscar for the visual effects. But I found it very interesting that the guy who did the orchestral arrangement of the song for the movie was Alexander Courage. So there's another road to Star Trek for you.
Yes, exactly. I was, when I saw that his name's in the credits, So
there's Kasha and Hirschhorn with Gene Kelly, it looks like there.
Yes, it is Gene at the Academy Awards. And what's interesting though is the backstory of how quickly they turned this.
Oh yeah, yeah. They wrote it in a night, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, that's how impressive is that? And then not only doing that, but then what happened with the song? Who was it? Maureen McGovern did a version of the song.
Yeah, it became a big hit, right?
That's where I remember it.
Yeah, it wasn't in the movie. I mean, she didn't sing it in the movie, but yeah, the same. At the point of Poseidon Adventure was at its peak of popularity. This was on the radio with Maureen McGovern.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Christian commented, he said, yes, it happened to Hammer and India Ross for a film that was never made. Nessie, maybe. referring to comments from before.
Yeah.
And another interesting note, Eric Shea, who is Robin, was the voice of Linus in the Peanuts.
Oh, was he really?
That's
That's
interesting.
funny. Okay, so he did something that was quasi bearable. Eric Shea. What am I looking up? Oh, the Bruce Lee,
Bruce
uh,
Lee connection with
David Carradine,
David Carradine.
and Silliphant. That's what it is. I don't usually do this. I don't usually
Yeah.
like to look things. Circle of Iron was the name of the movie.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
it was a martial arts fantasy film. All right. So anyway, I don't generally, once the show starts, I try not to, to, to do any Google, but I thought I'd make an exception in this case. So
Leslie also commented about Pamela Sue Martin. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, Leslie, about the Nancy Drew show, because it was Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys. It was on in 1976, and it was on, I believe, for 2 seasons to 78.
Yeah.
Matt is out there. Matt Anthony is in the house. Welcome, Matt. How are you? Saying, what the hell? I thought the show was canceled.
There you go.
Nah, we dodged the suits last week. We dodged the suits, Matt. Hope you're doing well. Hope your holidays have been going well. And yeah, we are New Year's Eve. So welcome. Never too late, Matt. Never too late.
Yeah. He's been pretty busy. He's been busking at the Christmas market in Philadelphia.
Mm.
So that's why he keeps popping in late.
That's all right. Better late than, what was it? What was that card that I got years ago? But better late than never. Oh, never mind. Paul's saying, I still have Circle of Iron DVRs waiting to be watched.
I'll be right over.
And Linda's saying Eric Shea was in all the all the teen heartthrob magazines of the day, Teen Beat, etc. Again, odd because I can't think of anything else he did in the day.
Yeah, like after he was a kid, I can't think of anything he did either. But I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, but we are going to start to wind down, folks. So yeah, definitely love this movie. If you have not seen this movie, definitely check it out. What I'm going to ask is, though, before I go to the shout outs, if you do have a glass and you'd like to raise a toast with us, what I'm going to do is I am going to share the link to the show. And what you can do is you can pop on after we do the shout outs, and we will do a toast to 2023. I mean, we're doing it a little early, but I thought it would be nice to have the camaraderie and bring everybody together and do that. So I'm going to share the link. So all you have to do is just click on the link and just accept it. It's web-based. It's StreamYard. So it is in the comments section.
Put on some pants. Yeah.
I'm posting it out. So if you folks want to do that, you can come on, and it would be great to see our viewers out there. So thought that would be really cool. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that while we're going through the shout outs. Matt, oh boy, there's a mineral on that island called Bubarero, and I need it to run my oh, Matt. Anyway, you can join us on there through that link, and it should work because it's the link that I sent to Ross earlier. So hopefully that does work, and you can just click on it. All right, so go into the shout outs portion, and then we will circle back, and then we will do that. So with that said, so yeah, definitely get yourselves a drink, and we can raise a glass all together. I want to give a shout out to our friends Mike and Mary Beth on Sci-Fi Distilled. They are on Wednesday nights, and they are on 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they cover the science fiction and television movies and television of the 80s, 90s, and beyond. And they will be back. They have actually been on hiatus this week for the holiday. They are returning on Wednesday, January 4th, and they will be covering the Planet of the Apes. And actually, what they're planning on doing is doing a series of Planet of the Apes, and they're going to start with the first movie, which was the one that came out in 1968. So they are going to be discussing that. We were talking about the Planet of the Apes earlier, too.
That's the one with the budget.
Yes, the first one is the one with the budget that we actually had covered that. How long ago was that, Ross? About maybe a year or so ago?
I don't know. It could have been a couple of years actually,
Maybe
but
it's 2 years. Yeah.
it's hard to believe that we've been doing this for
Yeah.
that long. But yeah, we did it at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be 3 years in June that you and I have been. And the
Yeah.
show's going to hit the 3 year anniversary in April, and we'll be going into
Ouch.
the fourth season. So very excited about that. So anyway, catch Mike and Mary Beth as they discuss the Planet of the Apes, and that's this Wednesday. And I want to give a big shout out to my friend Bill Scarrato from Country Gate Players. He's the owner of Country Gate. And as everybody knows, the theater has been through a lot over the past couple of years with everything with COVID and everything. So anyway, the theater is going to be coming back in full force. And stay tuned. Bill has a lot of news to talk about. There's going to be a murder mystery taking place in February, and that will be in Belvedere. So if you are near the Belvedere, New Jersey area, that's something that you can definitely check out and come see. And it's also going to be in Harmony. So we'll be sharing information about that down the pike, but also the theater will be doing full presentations as well too. Now, for information about the theater, you can go to www.countrygate.org, or you can visit Bill's on the internet website as well, which is www.billscarrato.com. And next, I want to give a shout out to Captain Phil's Planet. Captain Phil's on WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. And his schedule is on alternating Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And he's also on Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. And I also want to give a shout out to our friends at Studio One Thrift. And they actually have a live broadcast on Facebook as well. And that is Snow and Martha. They showcase their lineup for all seasons, all year long, with quality, stylish, affordable clothing for men and women. And they've been doing this business now for about 8 to 9 months. So definitely check it out. Again, no matter where you are, you can visit their website, which is www.studioonethrift.com. And you can order directly from them on the website. So definitely check that out. And Ross, if you can let everybody know what you've got going on.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Yeah, these are the two shows I've got on WWFM, the Classical Network. Picture Perfect's the movie music show, and that airs on Saturday nights at 6. And this week for New Year's Eve, it's all music from movies with dance. So I've got selections from The Tales of Beatrix Potter by John Lanchberry, The Red Shoes by John Easdale. That's the Pal Pressburger movie based on the Hans Christian Andersen tale. Spectre of the Rose by Trenton's own George Antile. The Leopard by Nino Rota, and A Damsel in Distress, Fred Astaire, Joan Fontaine, and Burns and Allen, George Burns and Gracie Allen in that movie, with music by George Gershwin. So you can set the tone for your New Year's Eve celebration with those tunes from movies with dance this Saturday at 6 p.m. at wwfm.org. The Lost Chord is unusual and neglected repertoire, classical music. And this week I'm focusing on music by Emil Nikolaus von Reznicek. And if you're a classical music person and you hear the name Reznicek, you always think of the Donna Diana Overture, which is a short 4-minute piece of music. But he wrote a lot of music, and I'm playing one of his symphonies for New Year's Day. Everybody dances on New Year's, so I'm playing his dance symphony. So you've got movements devoted to the Polonaise, the Czardas, a Ländler, a Tarantella. But then, you find out that the composer really intended it as a dance of death. So Happy New Year. I'm doing Emil Nikolaus von Reznicek's Dance Symphony. So it's Emil with dancing is what I'm calling the program. And that's Sunday night at 10 on your New Year's Day. So if you're still awake and you're, not hungover, you can tune in Sunday night at 10 at wwfm.org. If you missed the programs at the times listed, they will be posted later in the week as webcasts there. And I'll be promoting them over the weekend at my Facebook page, Classic Ross Amico. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Ross.
Thanks, Roy.
And hey, Sherry made it. So Sherry is tuning in. Hi, hon. Thanks for tuning in. And okay, so
this whole movie is a shower scene. Poseidon Adventure.
So just to let everybody know, Ross and I will be back. We are going to be back next Friday, which will be into the new year. And it'll be Friday, January 6th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. we are going to be doing a very special nostalgia episode, and we are going to be covering the movie 05/25/77. And our very special guest host will be Joseph Joe Metz, who is Ross's cousin, one of my closest friends from back in the day. And that's actually how Ross and I got to know each other. I mean, I've been friends with Joe since back in 5th grade. So very happy to have Joe on with us. We are going to be covering this movie, 5/25/77, and not only going to be covering the movie, but it's really going to, it hits home on a lot of angles for us, because this film is all about nostalgia, and it's about being a teenager in the 70s and making movies. And if you have not had the opportunity to see this film, I would encourage you to see this film. This film is incredibly excellent. It is a nostalgia piece. It was probably about at least 18 years in the making. And we'll get into all of that and talk about that next week in greater detail. But we are going to not only be talking about the film, but we're going to be talking about what we used to do when we were, back in our high school days. And it affects, us on that level. Go ahead, Ross. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say the significance should not be lost on people. What 5/25/77, what instantly leaps to everybody's, any sci-fi person or anybody who grew up in that era, that was the opening day of Star Wars.
Star Wars, yes. So
So
definitely, if you have the opportunity to check it out, definitely check it out. It is available for streaming, and it's available on Blu-ray. And if you do have the opportunity to get the Blu-ray, definitely check out the commentary. It's just an incredible film. So we are going to be covering that, and again talking about just how about our lives and growing up and doing that as well too. And I saw Matt wrote about the cosmic egg, and yes, we will be talking about the cosmic egg. What's that, Russ?
There'll be lots of insight into our own personal movie making adventures, with stills from the movies.
Yeah, and very, very happy to share that. So anyway, just wanted to let everybody know about that. And with that, I thought it would be kind of cool if anybody out there, if you've received the link and you want to come in, and we can just raise glasses. So let me see who's out there, and I'm going to bring you in so we can all come on here. So bringing Mark in. Mark, welcome, Mark.
Hey, welcome. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can. I'm bringing Brennan.
Okay.
Hey, Brennan. Welcome, Brennan.
Hey.
I'm also bringing Christian in. Welcome, Christian.
Hey.
And I see Leslie's out there. Leslie, welcome.
Hey, Leslie.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hey. Let me unshare the screen so we can see everybody a little bit better there. There we
Hi.
go.
Hello.
Hey, welcome. If anybody else wants to join us, please. Oh, Jeff Rubel is out there. Jeff.
It's like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, there we go. We're getting there.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, I'm not being Alice just because I'm the only girl, so no.
Wow. But anyway, I'm going to give everybody else a couple minutes, and I'm going to just go through to some of the comments as they're coming. Thanks, Bill, and Happy New Year to you as well. And Martin, thank you. And I mean, that was Matt. Dennis Chevalier, Happy New Year. And there's Matt. Cosmic Egg, absolutely. And hold on. Yeah, well, Linda. Oh, and Linda. That's what was the comment I was trying to bring up. Linda, Happy New Year to you as well, too. And also Gary Boyer. Thank you, Gary. And thanks for having your friend also join us, Brian. Thanks for joining us as well tonight, too.
Happy New Year.
Really appreciate it. So cheers to everyone. Thank you. Virtually.
Cheers. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, guys.
Cheers,
everybody. Thank you. Right out of the bottle. I like that. Yeah.
Oh, Liz is there. Liz, I'm bringing you in, Liz.
Yeah.
Hey, Liz. Happy birthday again, Liz.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Liz.
Birthday. And Happy New Year.
Birthday.
We have to drink again, Liz. Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks, Liz.
Cheers.
Gotta do it again. Cheers. It's a great tree.
Lou's saying he doesn't have a camera, but he's saying happy year.
I think it's one more per. person then.
What's that?
Bring in another person.
Yeah, I just brought in another person. Oh,
Is there somebody else?
yeah, no, that's it. We're it.
Good. I don't know if I can
When
drink
are we
anymore.
gonna do? When are we gonna do Orca?
We'll do Orca in
We did it.
2023.
We did it. You weren't here.
Oh, you think I don't know that you didn't do it? I know you didn't do it because I know everything about that movie.
We advertised it. We said we were going to do it.
Yeah, and then I had a sting and I couldn't do it, so you know.
It's okay. We will come back to do it next year. It's all good.
And I'm not watching it again.
Yeah, Sherry's joining
I
us.
didn't want to do the link. I didn't know how to do the link, so here I am.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, Sherry.
Oh, I got to do it
New
again.
Year.
Have a good one.
What's the name of your cat, Mark?
Oh, it's Ginger.
Ginger.
She wants to get in. She's going to be a sci-fi fan now.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for joining us. Well,
Yeah,
we
thanks
made
for
it.
having it. It's really good. I like it. Thanks. Here.
Oh, and who's that there? Who would you have there? I got to drink again.
Squeaker made it.
I'm not putting the ferrets on camera.
Okay.
All right.
We
So this
broke
one's
the fourth
Squeaker.
wall.
Yeah.
But no, thanks everybody. I'm glad everybody was able to come on here. And Happy New Year. Oh, Don's saying Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
And Linda's happy about Orca, just so you know.
Thank you, Linda.
All right. So with that said, thank you, folks. And Happy New Year. Stay safe. And thanks for coming on.
Okay. See you next year.
We'll see you
Happy
next
New
week.
Year, guys.
Take
Happy
care,
New
everybody.
Year.
Happy
Take
New
care,
Year. Have a healthy one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.